one day and realized I was tired of being loyal to a memory that had never been loyal to me. And that was the beginning of survival. The years we were together were the happiest years of my life, or at least, I always believed they were. That belief shattered the day I realized that after 2 years of pursuit and 3 years of dating, he chose someone else. My world started spinning. I never believed love could arrive unexpectedly in the form of quiet care. No high expectations. No dramatic proposal. Just a man sitting across my desk, asking whether I preferred tea or coffee when I had a headache from a project deadline, and then reminding me to focus, because the deadline was 10 a.m. the next morning. That was him, my subordinate. And the man who would later teach me that love doesn't always break you loudly. Sometimes it erodes you slowly, until you no longer recognize the person you used to be. I had been with the company for 7 years when he joined. I was the chief marketing executive, stable, respected, and invisible in the way women often become when they are competent, but not flashy. I liked it that way. I wore simple clothes, spoke only when necessary, carried responsibility like a second spine. He joined as a junior executive, quiet, observant, sharp in a way that didn't demand attention. He worked under me directly. From day one, there was nothing inappropriate. No lingering looks. No flirtation. Just work. Then the questions began. Not about tasks. About me. How long have you been here? Do you always skip lunch? You stay late every day, don't you get tired? I answered politely. Professionally. I didn't know then that attention, given consistently over time, becomes affection before you realize what's happening. For 2 years, he pursued me patiently. Not with flowers or dramatic confessions, but with presence. He stayed back whenever I stayed back, always with the excuse of unfinished tasks. He brought files I didn't ask for just in case you need them for reference. He remembered deadlines better than I did. He defended my decisions in meetings when others questioned them. Slowly, the office stopped seeing him as my subordinate. They saw him as my shadow, my armor, the one who shielded me from everything. I resisted for a long time. I reminded him, and myself, about the hierarchy, the risk, the optics. I told him clearly once. This is not something I can afford to get wrong. He smiled, not arrogantly, not pleadingly, but with certainty. I'm not asking you to rush, he said. I'm asking you to trust me. Trust. That word carries weight. And he carried it well until one day he didn't. We started dating quietly. No announcements. No office gossip. No lingering touches at work. No affectionate glances. Nothing that could make us look unprofessional. Just two people who already knew each other's habits too well to pretend otherwise. The first year was cautious. The second was comfortable. The third felt permanent. We talked about everything: careers, money, family expectations. He knew where I came from. A modest background, practical parents, no generational wealth, no social leverage. I knew where he wanted to go: upward, outward, higher. I never imagined those two directions would eventually point away from me. When he got promoted, I was proud. When he earned more, I celebrated. When people started calling him ambitious, I defended him. I loved him in a way that didn't compete with his success. I fueled it. And maybe that was my mistake. Our third dating anniversary came quietly. A weekday. No grand plans. We had dinner at home. He was distracted on his phone, smiling at messages he didn't explain. I didn't question it. Love makes you generous with silence. 2 days later, I found out he was getting engaged. Not from him. From a congratulatory message accidentally forwarded by a colleague. The words didn't register at first. Engagement next week. Family finalized. She's a prosecutor. Generational wealth. Big law firm. Perfect match. Perfect. I confronted him that night. No shouting. No drama. Just the kind of stillness that comes when your life fractures quietly. He didn't deny it. That hurt more than if he had lied. She fits where I'm going, he said. Not cruelly. Not apologetically. Just factually, like discussing a career move. My family won't accept you, he added. They never will. I asked the only question that mattered. Then why did you stay with me for 5 years? He didn't answer immediately. Then he said, because with you, I could become who I needed to be. It was easy. Peaceful. Convenient. I was in love with you then, but now things are different. I want someone who can match me. That was the moment I understood. I wasn't his partner. I was his preparation. I cried alone that night. Not loudly. Not dramatically. The kind of crying where your body shakes, but your face stays silent because you don't even have the energy to break down properly. A week later, his engagement photos were everywhere. Smiling faces. Expensive decor. A woman who looked like she belonged in rooms I had never entered. I stopped going to work. At first, it was just a break. Then weeks became months. Then months became years. I stopped answering calls. Stopped dressing up. Stopped planning. I watched life continue without me, and I let it. For 2 years, I didn't work. For 4 years, I didn't live. I replayed conversations endlessly, searching for the moment where I should have known. But love doesn't come with warning labels. It comes disguised as effort. People say time heals. They don't tell you that time also accuses. Every birthday you spend alone. Every wedding invitation you decline. Every promotion you could have chased, but didn't. I did everything right and still paid the price. He did everything wrong and still moved on happily. That truth almost destroyed me. But somewhere between the 4th year of silence and the 5th year of exhaustion, something changed. Not dramatically. Not heroically. Just quietly. I woke up one day and realized I was tired of being loyal to a memory that had never been loyal to me. And that was the beginning. Not of happiness, but of survival. Learning to live without the version of me he loved was difficult. I thought the worst part was over once his wedding ended. I was wrong. The worst part came afterward, when there was nothing left to react to, nothing new to hurt me, and yet the pain stayed. Quiet. Persistent. Unimpressed by time. People imagine heartbreak as a sharp event. A betrayal. A confrontation. A goodbye. But real heartbreak is administrative. It's waking up every day and realizing there is no urgent reason to move. No message to wait for. No explanation coming. No apology pending. Just silence that stretches across weeks, months, years. After his marriage, I told myself I would return to work soon. Soon became a lie I repeated often enough to almost believe. At first, I avoided work because I was fragile. Later, I avoided it because I was ashamed. Ashamed of being the woman who fell apart. Ashamed of being the senior who dated her subordinate. Ashamed of being replaced by someone whose resume looked better than mine. People reached out. Gently at first. Then awkwardly. Then not at all. The world does not abandon you suddenly. It just stops waiting. I watched his life from a distance I pretended not to care about. New house. Foreign trips. Professional recognition. Photographs where happiness looked effortless. And I hated myself, not for missing him, but for noticing. Because I had done everything right. I had loved quietly. Supported fully. Never demanded more than he offered. Never embarrassed him. Never stood in his way. And still, I was the one who lost everything. That injustice poisoned me. Not loudly. Slowly. There were days I didn't speak to anyone. Not because I had nothing to say, but because words felt irrelevant when my life was paused. I slept at odd hours. Ate without appetite. Let my body exist without intention. I stopped recognizing the woman in the mirror. She looked older than her age. Not physically, but internally, like someone who had lived too many unresolved endings. The irony was cruel. I had lost him, but I had also lost myself. And no one talks about that second loss. People advised me to move on. They said it casually, as if I were holding a misplaced object, not mourning an entire identity. They didn't understand that I wasn't missing him anymore. I was missing the version of myself who believed love was safe. I was missing the woman who trusted effort. I was missing the future I had unknowingly built around him. For years passed like this. For years of existing without momentum. And then one day, nothing extraordinary happened. No breakdown. No epiphany. No dramatic turning point. I just realized something uncomfortable. If pain had taught me anything by now, it would have taught me already. Instead, it was just consuming me. And that meant I was choosing it. That thought hurt more than the breakup. Because it meant I had stayed longer in my suffering than I ever stayed in love. I didn't suddenly forgive him. I didn't suddenly love myself. I didn't suddenly become strong. I simply got tired of being absent from my own life. So I started small. Painfully small. I woke up at the same time every day, even when there was no reason to. I went for walks, not to heal, but because movement reminded my body it still existed. I cleaned my space, not to feel productive, but to reduce the evidence of stagnation. I didn't tell anyone I was starting over. Because starting over sounded too hopeful. I was just starting to participate again. Returning to work terrified me, not because I doubted my skills, but because I doubted my relevance. For years is a long time to disappear. The industry had moved on. People had moved up. New names had replaced old ones. And I had to accept something humiliating. I was no longer the woman I once was in the workplace. I was behind. And that was my responsibility to face, not his. That acceptance was the first honest thing I had done in years. I took a smaller role than I once had. Lower pay, less authority, no recognition. And I didn't argue. Because ego had cost me enough already. At night, I still cried sometimes. But the crying changed. It wasn't about him anymore. It was about grief for wasted time. I realized something difficult during that phase. He had moved on easily not because he was stronger, but because he never invested fully. I had loved with depth. He had loved with convenience. That difference mattered. Not for justice, but for closure. There were moments of relapse. Days when his name resurfaced unexpectedly. Weeks when loneliness pressed harder than progress. Healing is not linear. Anyone who tells you otherwise has never lost something that defined them. But slowly, almost imperceptibly, life expanded. I laughed at something without guilt. I made plans without calculating emotional risk. I felt neutral about his existence. Neutrality, I learned, is freedom. One evening, I came across an old photo of us. Not accidentally. Intentionally. I expected pain. Instead, I felt clarity. He wasn't a villain. And I wasn't a fool. We were two people who wanted different futures and pretended love could negotiate that difference. It couldn't. And that didn't make me weak. It made me human. I stopped measuring my life against his. Stopped comparing timelines. Stopped asking why he was happy and I wasn't. Because comparison assumes fairness. Life is not fair. It is only honest, eventually. I didn't end up with a dramatic success story. No sudden wealth. No public victory. No poetic revenge. What I gained was quieter. Stability. Self-respect. The ability to sit alone without feeling abandoned. And that was enough. Today, when I think of him, I don't feel anger. I feel distance. And distance is mercy. I understand now that love is not proven by how long someone stays, but by what they choose when staying becomes inconvenient. He chose alignment with status. I chose survival. Both choices shaped our lives. Only one allowed growth. If you are listening to this and feel like you wasted years loving the wrong person, hear this clearly. You didn't waste them. You paid for an education no one warned you about. And now, you get to live informed. I am not the woman he left. I am not the woman who cried for 4 years. I am not the woman who stopped her life waiting for closure. I am the woman who learned slowly, painfully, that healing doesn't arrive as relief. It arrives as responsibility. And one day, you choose to carry yourself again. That day changes everything. If you stayed till the end, remember this. Some people walk into our lives not to stay forever, but to teach us what we should never accept again. If you loved deeply and still lost, you were not weak. You were brave enough to feel. And one day, that courage will rebuild you. Healing is not about forgetting them. It's about choosing yourself again and again until the pain no longer decides your future. If this story touched your heart, like this video so it reaches someone who needs these words tonight. Subscribe to this channel Mended Souls, because here, broken stories don't end in silence, they end in strength and broken hearts shine beyond scars. And comment your story below, because your pain deserves to be heard too. This video is presented by YouTube channel Mended Souls, where broken hearts shine beyond the scars.